Morning. We're going to start shortly. Start in a few minutes.
Let me see what today's portion is.
Morning, everyone. We're going to start at 12:05. Just give another 2-3 minutes for everyone to log on. I want to apologize, Rabbi Scheiner. Fortunately, is not going to be on today. I'll be giving the class. I hope you guys, hope all of you enjoy. We have a great class planned, and I'm excited to be here. So we'll get started in just a few minutes. Okay, I'm gonna go grab a cup of water and we'll get started. I'll be back in a minute. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Let's get started over here. Beautiful day today. Thank you all for joining us. So today we're going to be talking about a little bit about the month of Elul and the importance of the time that we're in now. For those who don't follow the Tommy Synagogue on social media, which I highly recommend you do, you will learn that there's actually a women's retreat now in Montana. The reason why they went on this retreat is like that to get a fresh start on the new year. Now, you don't need to go on the retreat to get a fresh start on the year, but it definitely sometimes helps to spend a day or two outside focusing and learning and trying to think about how you're going to evolve going forward to next year. So what I want to do today is maybe something a little different that hasn't been done in the past. And just give me a second. I'm trying to open up the link of my notes. Okay. Can everyone see me?
Yep.
Perfect. So I want to start off with a little story, a really interesting story. We have some more people coming on. Give me a minute. How are you, Ben? How are you, El? Scott? It's me today. Hope everyone can hear me. So we do something a little differently today. And Rabbi Scheiner has his way how he teaches, and we all love and wish he was here today. But because I'm the one giving the class, we're gonna change things up a little bit though, so hopefully keep it interesting. So the Baal Shem Tov shares the following story. The story is it was actually said in a discourse that the Baal Shem Tov spoke over many, many years ago. And to give some context, the Baal Shem Tov lived, give me a second, Tach V'Tat, 1948, 1648, he was born, okay? He was born 1658. Baal Shem Tov was born in 1658 and passed away in Chav Kuf Chaf, which was 17. Give me a second. I'm sorry. Trying to calculate the years. So yeah, the Baal Shem Tov lived in the 17th century. Let's not get stuck in the details. And he was the founder of Hasidism the way we know it today. The the Baal Shem Tov was a man known for loving every single Jew, regardless of what they did that day, or how religious they were, or how secular they were, or what they accomplished, or how much money they have. He actually favored the simple Jew so much so that when Baal Shem Tov would come to town, like most great rabbis, they come to town. What are the first thing they do? They go to the rabbi of the town and they visit him. But Baal Shem Tov, when he would come to a town, he would actually go to the town square, to the market, and just ask simple Jews, "How was your day? What's going on with your life?" And he would hope that they would answer, "Thank God I'm doing well. Thank God I'm okay. Thank God, this is going well, but I could use some help with this." But all he wanted to hear was someone say, "Baruch Hashem, thank God." And this was his motto. This was his lifestyle. That he went around asking people how they're doing for a living, how are you doing in your health, how's your kids doing, and he would just want to hear Baruch Hashem. And so the Baal Shem Tov shares the following story anecdote regarding the month of El, and the fourth Chabad Rebbe actually dives into this anecdote and explains it. So I'm going to give you the anecdote. There was a king of a very mighty country, and he only had one son. And he needed to make sure that his son, his only child, who's going to be king when he passes, is going to be a good king. Won't be a tyrant, won't be a madman or the mad king. Will be a loving and kind king and understanding king. And he was worried for his son. His son was 10, 11, 12 years old, and he decides he's going to test his son to see his son if he's truly capable of being a good king. So what does he do? Here's the test. He tells his son, son, you're used to living in the palace. You could eat whatever you want, drink whatever you want. Could everyone still hear me?
Yes.
I just changed the camera. Not the camera, the speaker. Um, you could eat whatever you want, you'll drink whatever you want. I think it's good for you to get out in the real world, to know what it's like to live out there among strangers, make money, understand how life moves outside the palace. And I don't want you to do it over here in the capital city. You see, in the capital, everyone knows who you are. You're around. So I'm gonna send you to a far away land. And I'm gonna give you a nice amount of money. You don't have to worry about money. I'm gonna give you a nice amount of money, but you're gonna have to be smart with your money. You're gonna have to make sure that you save your money and start a business there. And he tells them, in this faraway land, you may not know the language. You're gonna have to learn the language, and you're really gonna have to develop yourself independently. And he's hoping that through this, his son will become, a true leader of the people. So he bids farewell to his son, and he sends his son off. So his son goes out to the world, and he's traveling. He has this big sum of money. And, the son is a party boy. He's used to of the lavish lifestyle of the palace. He's used to having whatever he wants when he wants. So he comes to the next town over, the next city. He's eating, fine dining, drinking, staying at five-star hotels, and he's slowly making his way to where his father wants to send him off. 2, 3 months later, you have to travel by horse and buggy and by camel, and he has to get on a boat. He finally makes it to this foreign land, and he looks at the amount of money he has left, and unfortunately, his money is slowly dwindling away, and he doesn't have a unlimited supply anymore like he had in the palace. Now he starts thinking how to preserve money. He comes to this new city where his father wants him to live. He's like, okay, I need to make some money to sustain myself. I can't stay in a five-star hotel. He stays in a cheaper hotel, but he still doesn't know how to really survive out there in the real world. And the next thing you know, he's homeless. He can't pay for his hotel. And he starts telling people, I'm a prince of this and this king and this land. No one cares. If you can't pay, you can't stay. And he says, I have no place in the big city. Let me go to the countryside. Maybe there's some nice people in the countryside. And he starts hiking through the countryside of this faraway land. He comes to some town with a few farmers. He asks a few people, I need some work. Can I please stay with you? And sure enough, one of them allows him to stay with him and work for him. The prince went from living in the palace, having whatever he wants at the snap of a finger, to now practically homeless, working in a farm. He's sleeping in a shed with some animals. And at first, it's really, really difficult, like you can imagine. And he never imagined his life would fall to such lows. But eventually, his, he starts forgetting. He's too busy at work. He's working from the morning to the night. He has no time to think about his misery. And he gets used to the lifestyle of living in a farm and just being a simple farmer. With over the years, you know, living in this farm, away from his family, away from the palace, he grows up, grows his beard, he grows his hair out, he looks a little different now. He doesn't have the same mannerism, the same characteristics. He's a totally different person. And he got used to living in this farm, and this is a new reality, his new life. He lives there for about 10 years. One night after about 10 years of working in this farm, he's about to go to sleep, and suddenly he started remembering the days of old, what it was like to live in the palace. Everything he wanted, everything was accessible. You don't have to work for a living. And he starts crying. He starts crying. How far has he gone? And you can imagine if you were in the place of this child, chances are you would also be crying. he takes a vow that he's going to do whatever he can to make it back. And he slowly starts making his journey back to his home country and to the capital city where his father is king. He saves up some money. He travels to a major city. He gets on a ship, gets to his father's country. He barely has any money. He has to hitchhike. Slowly, it takes a few months for him to get back to the capital city. But he's finally back. And he tells himself, I'm finally back in the capital and my misery is about to come to an end. And he comes to the capital and he goes into the shop and he tells people, do you know who I am? And everyone's like, no, we actually have no idea who you are. They're like, well, I'm the prince. And everyone starts laughing. Ha ha ha, look at the prince. This guy is crazy. He thinks he's the prince. And he's like, no, I'm serious. I'm actually the prince. And everyone's just laughing and joking and drinking. And wherever he goes, and it's the talk of town, this guy shows up and he's convinced that he's the prince. And a new homeless Michiganer. That's what everyone thinks of him. He decides, maybe I should just go to the palace and ask that I speak to my father. So he goes up to the palace. He goes to the guard and he tells the guard, I am the prince and I want to see my father. I haven't seen my father in over 10 years. Please allow me inside to see my father. And what do you think the guard does? The guard takes his fist, gives one big knock punch in the kid's face. And he's not a kid, he's a little older now. He falls to the ground. And at this point, he's devastated. He realizes his task is very far from over. And he's homeless now in the capital city where his own father is king. One day, after a few months living in the capital city, doesn't know what's going to be. He hears that the king is planning a military parade in honor of Independence Day of his father's country. And that his father is going to be on the royal chariots and he's going to be waving to the crowds and the crowds are going to be cheering. And he says, wow, this is my time to see my father and maybe make contact with my father. He investigates, he finds out exactly where the route of the parade will be. And he situates himself in a place like that he could be prepared to see the king. Sure enough, the day of the parade comes and the king chariot starts coming by and he sees the king's chariots from afar, from where he's standing. And he's like, okay, this is my chance. This is my chance. This is my chance. Finally, as the king is really, really close, he decides he's going to just run towards the chariot and scream. And maybe his father will listen to him. And he jumps over the fence and he's running to the king. And the guards are trying to run after him and chase him and grab him and tackle him. And there's a lot of commotion and noise and bands playing. And he's yelling on the top of his lungs, Father, Father, Father. And the king sees the commotion and they see that there's this guy running at him. And at first, like his guards are protecting him, but then they realize he's unharmed and they want to throw him in prison. And the king says, wait a second. He looks into the guy's eyes and he notices something and he asks, please bring him close. And sure enough, the king realizes that this is his son that he sent away 10 years ago. And the king and son embrace. You see, every year on Rosh Hashanah is in 16 days. Every year in Rosh Hashanah, we all take upon ourselves many great things. Can't really do it by the raise of hands. Maybe we can if enough people are next to their screen. But by the raise of hands, okay, if you could raise your hand, how many of you last year Rosh Hashanah said that this year is going to be different? How many of you could just doesn't have to be different in an extreme way, but different. Ask yourself, what did you tell yourself last year, Rosh Hashanah? We have one person so far. I'm not sure how many are close to their phone, but
yeah.
Every year in Rosh Hashanah, right? You're in synagogue. You hear the shofar. you tell yourself, okay, God, I promise you this year is going to be different, right? How many times have we said that? I promise you this year is going to be different. And then Yom Kippur comes, and we're so close to God after 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, 7 days of atonement, and cultivates together on Yom Kippur. We're in synagogue, and and Ne'ilah. You ever been in synagogue and Ne'ilah? Everyone is in another world. Synagogue feels different. To be honest, during Ne'ilah, I never feel hungry. The inspiration and the height of the moment is so great that I'm totally, you don't really even feel that you're hungry. I don't feel that I'm hungry. Let me ask you all a question. What happens the second after Ne'ilah is over? They close the ark. What happens in synagogue? And I'm not here. This happens in every synagogue around the world. So I'm not pointing at anyone who's on the Zoom class. Obviously, all of you are different, but all the other Jews. There's everyone knows there's orange juice, chocolate cake, bagels, lox, cream cheese, tuna salad, egg salad, water, coffee, everything that you've been craving. And within minutes, synagogue's empty. And you ever ask yourself, what happened to all that inspiration? What happened to all the good deeds that you told God that you're going to do? Doesn't mean you did any bad deeds, right? But suddenly your total focus, right? Where's your focus in life? Your total focus went from being inside the synagogue in the height of Yom Kippur, the last final moments to change. Now you're stuffed, not you, but the person stuffing their face with a bagel and cream cheese. How do you go from that? How is that even possible? Like if you took a non-Jew and put them in shul, okay, they would be shocked from the height of the Ila. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so inspirational, so moving, so touching. Everyone's so inspired to 5 seconds later, we're all stuffing our faces. Sorry for using those words. All eating politely. Some cheesecake and chocolate cake and lemon cake and orange juice and coffee and bagels and lox. And then let me take it one step further. Throughout the year, right? On Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, you tell yourself things that you're going to do this year. And I really hope that you all did it. I really hope. But we all know what happens New Year's resolution, right? Let's take the non-Jewish, not to compare the Jewish New Year to non-Jewish year, but take the non-Jewish year for comparison. Everyone on New Year's resolution, the most Googled thing is exercise. The day, January 1st. Okay. January 1st, everyone's looking what exercise or healthy diet. It is a known thing that vegan shops, those healthy stores or whatever that you want to call them, they're packed on January 2nd, January 3rd, January 4th. They're doing crazy business. They were never so successful. The week after January 1st, these health shops are making a killing. They're killing it. Everyone's buying. Everyone wants to eat healthy, right? You tell yourself on January 1st, this year, I'm going to be physically different. And what happens a month later? They're back at McDonald's or wherever else you eat. Obviously not McDonald's, right? But you're back at the fast food chain. You're back at eating the chocolate babka and the rogalach and juices and unhealthy foods. What happened to that thought that you had in the beginning of the year? If just this year I would be healthy. If just this year I would work out every day. What happened to the thought you had on Rosh Hashanah? If just this year, I'm going to go to synagogue every Shabbat. But just this year, I'm going to pray every morning for a few minutes. Have you kept that thought? When you had that thought, you were really inspired. You were surrounded by Jews, men, women, children, all praying their hearts out. And you truly meant it when you had that thought. But why is it so hard to keep it? Why is it so hard to keep it? You see, this is exactly what happens to the son in the story. Every year we start off in the palace, and then God sends us out with goods, with inspiration, with the right ideas and the right thoughts and the right understanding of what we're trying to do. But in life, You don't always get to stay in the palace, right? It's Rosh Hashanah is a 48-hour holiday. Yom Kippur is a 24-hour day. And then Yom Kippur is over. And you have to go back to the real world. You go to the foreign land. What does a foreign land mean? It's foreign to God. You don't see godliness when you're out in business, right? You don't see godliness when you're doing your thing. You see godliness when you're in shul. And sometimes you could forget, you become homeless, you could lose all your values, your characteristics, everything that you promised that you're going to do in Rosh Hashanah, you could forget everything. And it's very normal, by the way. This is something that a lot of people struggle with. They tell themselves something, and unfortunately, they can't keep to it. Not because you're a bad person, just because when you told yourself that you're going to do it, you were truly inspired, and now you're not inspired anymore. What is the goal? What are you supposed to do about it? So we have to know that on Rosh Hashanah, we're calling out to God. This is what the son does in this story. He screams out, Father, Father, Father. What does that mean? It's what is
Hello?
that simple? What is that? What
Speaking.
is that calling? Do you have a question? Someone has a question? Okay. What is that calling of the son to the father in the story? That is the call of the shofar. That is the simple cry out, Father, Father, that we have in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur saying, Father, please accept us. We know we may have failed you this past year. And we know that we're not the same that we thought that we're going to be. And we haven't kept all our promises. Hopefully, we've done a few, but we definitely don't look the way we hoped we would look at the end of the year. And yet, our Father always accepts us. You see, this is something very interesting about Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the only holiday that the mitzvah is a very simple mitzvah. It's a very simple mitzvah to do on Rosh Hashanah. And highlight of Rosh Hashanah is just the blowing and hearing a sound. It's not something tangible that every single person gets to do, like eating in the sukkah, eating the matzah, eating the cheesecake, lighting the menorah, giving out gifts and charity on Purim, blowing the shofar. The mitzvah is to hear the sound. And what it's supposed to do is awaken that sound inside of you, that voice inside of you that wants to reconnect with God. Well, why is it on Rosh Hashanah that the great mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah isn't something a little more maybe meaningful or something a little more tangible, something that most people could do? You see, most people think when they think of Rosh Hashanah, they think of 4 hours sitting with my father in the synagogue, and I'm trying to escape, trying to get candy from the candy man. That's how I did growing up. It was a 5, 6 hour service, and there was the candy man, and there was the backyard, and we would try to run out, and then our fathers would call us back in to hear the Torah. We all grew up with the same Rosh Hashanah. But in truth, what is the mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah? To hear the simple sound of the shofar. And why is it so? It's the holiest day of the year. It's the day of judgment. Shouldn't we be doing something a little more than just listening to some sound of a ram horn? What's the significance of the ram horn? And here is what the fourth Chabad Rabbi has to say. You see, however holy a human being is, and however much you do, you're obviously never going to be on the same, you're never going to be able to understand God truly. God is so far away from our reality. Not that he doesn't exist within us, but we can never even start understanding what truly God is, right? If you try to explain God, ever ask yourself, what is God? Well, he created the world, right? What else did God do? He chose the Jewish people. But what is that God that chose the Jewish people? How did he? It's like, I don't know, he sent a messenger, miracles. We are so far away because we're living in this reality, and God wanted us to live in a reality where God is concealed. We don't see God everywhere, right? We don't see God. Even when you're in the synagogue, you may feel holiness. Do you see God in the synagogue? You may feel like you're talking to God, but do you see God? Do you know that God heard you? You believe that God heard you. Do you know?
These are good questions to ask yourselves. And so the fourth Chabad Rebbe says, you see, God is so far away from the physical reality of the world, not far away in actual space, because God doesn't exist in space. God created space. But in God is so far away, as in we have such a little understanding. Our characteristics are nothing like God. Our behaviors are nothing like God. The same way in the story, the example that we gave, the son who goes out and becomes a farmer and lives there for 10 years and becomes homeless, he's so different than his father. He's so he doesn't have the same mannerism. He doesn't dress the same. He doesn't act the same. And yet, when he screams out and calls to his father still accepts him. You know why? Not because his father hopes that maybe he's going to change, or not because his father remembered what he looked like when he was a 5-year-old boy and he was so cute. His father, sorry, Rabbi. His father reconnects with him because it's a son. That's the only reason why his father reconnects with him. His father doesn't reconnect with him because what he hopes he's going to be. His father looks at him. He looks like a dump. He's homeless. He's living off the street. He's useless at this point. But his father still gives him a hug and embraces him because it's a son. And this is what we're trying to do in Rosh Hashanah. In Rosh Hashanah, we have the understanding and the realization that God created this world, that concealed himself within this world, and we have such a little understanding of truly who he is. But you know what we do know? That he's our Father in heaven. Like a father, no matter how far away you may seem, emotionally, physically, spiritually, you're still a father and son. And God created us. But how do we tap into that relationship that God tried to conceal, right? How did God create the world? He concealed himself in the world. We don't see godliness in the world. So how do we tap into that relationship that we do feel God in this physical world? The only way we know how to do it is by a simple voice. There's no thoughts that you could do. There's no prayers that you could. There's prayers that express it. But how do you manifest it? By a simple voice. The same way the son who realizes how far he is from his father, the only thing he can call out and scream is Father, Father, Father. So too in Rosh Hashanah, we blow the shofar to reconnect the inner parts of our soul, the deepest part of our existence to Hashem. And the only way we know how to do it. And by the way, how do we accomplish that? How is that possible that we could bring Hashem down, godliness down in this world by and reconnecting with Hashem through a shofar, right? The answer is because yes, God did conceal himself in this world, but you know what God also did? God gave us mitzvahs and commandments to connect with him even in amidst the physicality of the world. And he gave us the opportunity with shofar. And he commanded us in shofar. We didn't come up with this ourselves. He commanded us with shofar. You know why? To tell us when you call out to me with a shofar and you reveal the essence of your true being, your soul that yearns to be good, to do good and act good and live like a good person, I'm going to accept you and I'm going to come and reveal himself within you. And therefore, in Rosh Hashanah, you feel inspiration. It doesn't mean that inspiration is not true. You feel the inspiration and you feel like you want to change and you feel like you want to be different. And it's all true. You know why? Because in Rosh Hashanah, your soul lights up. And therefore, we see Jews from all walks of life who never walk into shul. The 2 days they will walk into shul is Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. You know why? Because something's inside is telling them, I have to reconnect. And therefore, Jews, all they know about Rosh Hashanah is, I need to hear the shofar. Why is it so important to hear the shofar? Can't you just say a prayer at home? No, there's something that tells a Jew, I need to hear the shofar. You know why? Because the shofar is how God commanded us to say when you need to reconnect the physical and the spiritual, the hidden God that's in this world. You want to manifest it. You want to bring it out. Blow the shofar. You can't. There's no thoughts that will ever come close to the thoughts of God. There's no words that will ever express the greatness of God. So therefore, you need something simple, something that just comes from the most internal part of your being, your essential part of your soul, and it's so simple, but yet so deep. And that's what we do in Rosh Hashanah. I want to thank you all for joining us, and I hope you all have a blessed day, and see you all very soon. All the best.
Thank you.